Chapter 1. The Journey Begins. Welcome everyone to another English learning story. Today, we will learn English through the true story of a man who turned pain into power. Eminem, the rap god. In this story, you will practice simple English while also learning a deep life lesson. How to rise when life keeps pushing you down. Eminem is famous all around the world. People call him a legend. His songs break records. His voice fills stadiums. But long before the lights and the fame, there was a small boy from Detroit, a boy named Marshall Mathers. He did not feel like a star. He felt invisible. He lived in a small, broken house. His mother was often sick. His father had left when he was just a baby. Many days, there was no money for food. In school, other kids laughed at him. They called him names. They hurt him. He was small, shy, and different. He didn't play sports. He didn't have friends. He spent time alone, drawing, writing, dreaming. People saw a weak boy. But inside him, something strong was growing, a fire made of pain. He learned that words could protect him. When others hit him, he could not fight back. But when he wrote, he felt strong. He discovered rhythm. He discovered rhyme. And one day, he discovered rap. Rap became his language of freedom. When he rapped, he was not the poor kid anymore. He was powerful. He could turn every insult, every fear into a weapon of art. He could speak what his heart was too heavy to say. Music became his best friend, his teacher, and his mirror. But even then, the world did not believe in him. People said, "You are white. You cannot rap." They laughed again. Still he wrote. Still he practiced. Still he dreamed. Because deep down he knew one day his voice would matter. That is the story we are going to walk through together. Step by step in simple English. You will see not only how Eminem became a rap god, but also how every struggle can become a gift. You will learn new English words through real emotion, and you will discover how one man's story can teach us about courage, patience, and belief. So, as you listen, don't just learn the language. Feel the meaning. When you hear his pain, think about your own. When you hear his rise, think about your dreams. Because English learning is not just about words, it's about life. He was poor, he was bullied, but he had words, and those words built his world. In the next part, we will go back to the beginning, to the dark streets of Detroit, where a small boy first learned to fight the world with his voice. This is where the journey of Eminem, the rap god, truly begins. Now, let's start learning English through his story. Chapter 2. A Boy from Detroit. Welcome back to our English learning story about Eminem, the rap god. In this part, we will travel to his childhood, the time when everything was hard, cold, and painful. You will learn new English words through his real story, and you will see how pain can become power when you do not give up. Marshall Mathers was born in a small city called Detroit in the United States. Detroit was not a rich city. Many people were poor. Many families were broken. For Marshall, life started with struggle. His father left before he could even say his first words. His mother, Debbie, tried to take care of him alone. She worked small jobs. Some days she was sick. Some days there was no food. Their house was small, with cracked walls and broken windows. In winter, the cold wind came inside. Marshall often sat by the window holding a pencil. He liked to draw pictures and write short stories. He didn't have many toys, but he had imagination. He built worlds with words. Still, when he had to go to school, those worlds disappeared. School was not a safe place for him. Other children bullied him. They called him names, pushed him, and laughed at his clothes. He was small, pale, and quiet, not like the other kids. Once, an older boy hit him so hard that he fell and stayed in the hospital for days. His teachers saw his pain but did not understand it. They thought he was lazy or strange. No one asked him how he felt. No one listened. So he stopped talking. He stayed silent in class. But in his notebook, he wrote everything. He wrote his fears, his anger, and his dreams. The paper became his best friend. At home, his mother played old songs on the radio. Music filled the air, soft, sad, and powerful. Marshall listened closely. He began to notice the rhythm in words. He liked how music made stories feel alive. Then one day he heard something new. Rap. It was fast. It was full of rhyme. It sounded like poetry and fire mixed together. For the first time, he felt something inside him move. He started to copy the lyrics he heard. He tried to make his own rhymes. His mother didn't understand why he stayed up at night writing and whispering to himself. But he was building something important. He didn't know it yet, but these simple rhymes were the start of his destiny. Still, life outside was cruel. The streets of Detroit were rough. There was fighting, noise, and fear. Sometimes they had to move from one house to another because they couldn't pay the rent. Every time they moved, he lost friends. Every time, he had to start again. It felt like the world was saying, "You don't belong." But every time he felt weak, he wrote more. When he felt angry, he wrote harder. He found safety in the rhythm of words. He discovered that rhyming made his heart calm. He could take something bad and make it sound strong. He could take something sad and turn it into a song. He didn't need money to do it. He didn't need friends or fancy things. All he needed was a beat and a pencil. At school, when teachers asked students to write a poem, other kids complained. But Marshall smiled. He wrote fast, filling the page with sound and energy. His words danced. For the first time, he felt proud of something. He didn't get good grades, but he had a gift. Still, no one believed in that gift. His mother was tired and sick. She didn't see what he saw. Teachers told him he would fail in life. His classmates told him to quit dreaming. The world around him was dark and broken. But in that darkness, a small light began to grow. The light of self-belief. Marshall started listening to more rap artists. LL Cool J, Run DMC, and others. He learned how they used words like weapons, not to hurt, but to fight back. He began practicing every day. He wrote in notebooks until the pages were full. When kids laughed at him, he smiled quietly. They didn't know that one day his voice would echo across the world. At night, when his mother slept, He turned on the radio and rapped softly to himself. The rhythm became his heartbeat. He was no longer the silent boy from school. In his mind, he was standing on a stage. The crowd was cheering. The pain was gone. Only power remained. He didn't know when or how, but he promised himself something simple. I will be heard. That promise became his reason to keep going. He didn't have money. He didn't have support. But he had words. And with those words, he began to shape his future. It was not easy. The city still hurt him. The world still ignored him. But now, he had a secret weapon: his voice. He started writing short raps for fun. He performed them for his cousin or a few friends in the neighborhood. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes they clapped. Every small reaction gave him hope. He learned something powerful. When you turn your pain into art, people start to listen. They feel your truth. They feel your story. That was his first lesson in music and in life. A boy who was once silent had found his way to speak. A child who was ignored was learning to make the world listen. The road ahead was still long, but this was the beginning. The moment when a shy, bullied boy from Detroit started to believe that words could change everything. In the next part, we will see how that boy takes his first brave steps into the world of rap battles, where fear meets courage and his dream begins to take shape. Chapter 3: Finding His Voice. Welcome back to our English learning story about Eminem, the rap god. In this part, we will learn how a shy boy from Detroit started to find his voice through rap battles, and how courage begins with one small step. As you listen, you will learn new English expressions while feeling the rhythm of his real journey. When Marshall Mathers became a teenager, life was still difficult. His home was still small, his clothes still old, and his world still loud with pain. But something inside him was changing. He was no longer just the quiet boy with notebooks full of rhymes. He was becoming a young man with a dream. Detroit was full of music. Every street corner had someone rapping, dancing, or playing beats. The sound of hip-hop was like fire in the air. It spoke about truth, struggle, and power. All the things Marshall understood deeply. He felt connected to that rhythm. It was his language before he even knew it. He started spending time in small clubs and basements where local rappers gathered. These were not fancy places, dark rooms, cheap lights, and crowds full of energy, but to him, they were magical. He watched the rappers stand in a circle, taking turns throwing words like arrows, each trying to hit harder than the last. It was called a rap battle. A rap battle was not just about music, it was about courage. You had to stand in front of everyone and face your fear. You had to think fast, speak clear, and stay strong. Marshall loved watching, but he was afraid to try. He thought, "They will laugh at me. I don't belong here." And he was right. At first, people did laugh. He was the only white boy in the crowd. They called him names, told him to go home. But something inside him refused to listen. He knew he had the same fire. He knew he had words. He just needed one chance to prove it. Every night he practiced. He wrote new rhymes on pieces of paper. He repeated them in front of the mirror, studying his face, his breath, his timing. He listened to the beats again and again until they lived inside his heart. He wanted every word to hit with truth. Finally, one night, he decided to enter his first rap battle. His hands were shaking. His stomach felt tight. When his name was called, the crowd started laughing. "A white boy? Let's see what you got," someone shouted. His face turned red. His heart raced. For a moment, he thought about leaving, but then he remembered his promise. "I will be heard." He took a deep breath. The beat started. At first, his voice was small, but with each line it grew louder, stronger, faster. The words began to flow like water, real, sharp, alive. The crowd stopped laughing. They started cheering. He finished his verse, and for the first time, he saw people's faces change. They were not laughing now. They were amazed. That moment changed him forever. He realized something powerful. Confidence grows when you dare to start. He didn't wait for people to believe in him. He believed first. From that day, rap battles became his training ground. He entered every competition he could find. He won some, lost others, but every time he learned. He learned how to control his voice, how to build rhythm, how to fight back with words instead of anger. He learned how to stay calm even when the crowd booed. Each loss made him stronger. Each victory made him dream bigger. He started to be known in the underground rap scene as that white kid who can really rap. People couldn't ignore his talent anymore. His words carried pain, truth, and humor. He could turn insults into art. He could make the crowd laugh 1 second and cry the next. He also found friendship in the rap community. Some older rappers started to respect him. They saw his passion and his skill. One of them told him, "You're different, but that's your power. Don't try to sound like anyone else. Sound like you." That advice stayed with him forever. Marshall began to dream of something bigger. He didn't want to stay in small clubs forever. He wanted to make music that people everywhere could hear. He wanted to record his songs, to tell his story to the world. But dreams are never easy. Recording music cost money, and he didn't have any. Some days he worked small jobs to buy blank tapes. He recorded in his friend's basement using cheap microphones. He made demo after demo, writing and rewriting until every rhyme felt perfect. Sometimes people still told him to stop. They said, "You'll never make it. No one will listen to you," but he had learned to block the noise. He had learned that the only voice that truly matters is the one inside you. The one that says, "Keep going." He remembered the feeling of that first rap battle, how fear had turned into power. That memory became his strength. He knew he still had far to go, but now he also knew that he could stand in front of anyone, anywhere, and speak his truth. Rap was no longer just something he loved. It was who he was. It was the place where he belonged. The small boy from Detroit had finally found his voice. And with that voice, he was ready to climb higher. The next step would be the hardest, trying to take his words beyond Detroit, into a world that didn't yet know his name. In the next part, we will see how Eminem faces rejection after rejection, but never stops trying. Because when a dream is real, it doesn't die. It fights. It waits. It grows stronger with every no. Chapter 4. The Struggle Before Success. Welcome back to our English learning story about Eminem, the rap god. In this part, you will hear how dreams can hurt before they shine. You will learn how Eminem fought through hunger, rejection, and pain, and how love gave him the strength to keep going. As you listen, you'll practice simple English and feel the emotion behind every word. After many rap battles in Detroit, Marshall was finally known in small circles. People respected his talent, but fame was still far away. He had no big record deal, no rich producer, no easy road. What he had were notebooks full of rhymes, a dream that refused to die, and a heart that carried both hope and fear. Every day was a test. He worked small jobs, washing dishes, cleaning tables, packing boxes, anything to pay for food and rent. Some days, even that wasn't enough. He and his girlfriend Kim lived in tiny apartments that smelled of smoke and old paint. The walls were thin and the nights were cold. Then came the biggest change of his life. His daughter, Haley. When he held her for the first time, he felt something new, a reason to fight harder. She was small and soft, but to him, she was the biggest reason to live. He wanted to give her the life he never had. He wanted her to have safety, peace, and love. But dreams cost time, and survival cost money. He couldn't do both easily. During the day, he worked long hours. At night, he wrote songs until his eyes closed. Sometimes he slept on the floor beside his papers. Sometimes there was no food on the table. The sound of Haley crying made his heart break, but it also made his will stronger. He made demo tapes, small recordings of his songs, and sent them to music companies. But the answer was always the same: no. They said, "Your music is too raw." They said, "You'll never make it." Some didn't reply at all. Each rejection felt like a punch, but he kept trying. He thought, if they won't open the door, I'll build my own. The hardest days came when everything fell apart at once. He lost his job, bills piled up, his relationship with Kim became full of fights. Sometimes they shouted, sometimes they cried. The pressure was heavy, like a stone on his chest. One cold night, after another rejection, he sat on the floor surrounded by torn papers. He said softly, "Maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not good enough." Then he looked at a photo of Haley. Her small face was smiling at him. He whispered, "No, I can't quit. Not for her." He wanted to give up, but he remembered his daughter. That moment became a turning point. Love became his fuel. When the world pushed him down, he used his love for Haley to rise again. He wrote even harder. His pain became his power. Every broken dream became a new lyric. Every tear became a beat. He began performing anywhere that would let him. Small bars, underground clubs, even parking lots. The crowds were small, but he treated each one like a concert. People began to notice. His rhymes were sharp and real. His voice carried both anger and truth. Still, money was never enough. Sometimes he walked to shows because he couldn't afford the bus. Sometimes he borrowed clothes to look decent on stage. Sometimes he didn't eat so his daughter could. But no matter how dark things got, he never stopped writing. He often said to himself, "If I stop now, all this pain means nothing." So he kept going, day after day, rejection after rejection. In 1997, he finally recorded a small album called Infinite. He was proud of it. It was full of his heart and his message. But when it came out, critics didn't like it. Some said it was weak. Others ignored it completely. The album sold very few copies. To him, it felt like another wall closing in. He was 24, broke, tired, and full of doubt. He had tried everything, and nothing worked. The world seemed silent again. He started thinking, maybe I'm not supposed to make it. Then life hit him even harder. He lost his home. He slept on friends' couches, sometimes on the floor. He tried to stay strong, but he felt empty. One night, after a long week of no food and no hope, he thought about quitting music forever. But then again, he thought about Haley, her small hands, her laughter. He realized that music was not just about fame anymore. It was about giving her something to be proud of. He wanted her to know that her father never stopped fighting. So he picked up his pen one more time. This time, he wrote from the deepest part of his heart. He wrote about pain, fear, love, and failure, everything real. That writing became different. It was raw. It was honest. It was Eminem. He started to rap with more fire, more emotion. His friends noticed the change. They said, "Man, this is something new. You sound like no one else." For the first time, he felt like he had truly found his style, his truth. One day, someone told him about a big rap competition happening soon. The prize was small money, but the crowd was big. It was a chance to show his skill to real producers and artists. At first, he hesitated. He thought, what if I lose again? But then he remembered every night he went hungry, every no he had heard, and every time he stood up again. He said to himself, I've lost everything before. I can't lose more. I'll go. This was his moment, one last chance to turn pain into power. In the next part, we will see what happens when he steps onto that stage, nervous, hungry, and ready to fight for his dream. One moment can change a life. And that moment for Eminem was about to begin. Chapter 5. The Big Break. Welcome back to Eminem, the rap god's journey. In this part, we'll explore the moment that changed everything, how one chance meeting transformed years of failure into a lifetime of success. You will hear how Dr. Dre discovered Eminem and how two very different worlds came together to make music history. After years of sleeping on floors, losing jobs, and watching doors close, Eminem was running out of hope. He had tried everything. His first album, Infinite, had failed. The world didn't seem to care. But pain has a strange way of preparing you for greatness. Every rejection had sharpened him. Every fall had taught him how to rise faster. In 1997, something unexpected happened. A friend told him about a national rap competition, the Rap Olympics in Los Angeles. It was a long shot, but he decided to go. He had no money for the flight. Somehow he borrowed just enough to get there. His pockets were almost empty, but his heart was full of fire. At the competition, he stood among dozens of other rappers, all hungry for a break. The stage lights were hot. The crowd was loud. Each rapper took turns battling with words. Eminem waited quietly, his mind racing with rhymes. When his turn came, he stepped up, pale, tired, but burning inside. He unleashed verses like lightning. His flow was sharp, his words honest, his delivery fearless. The crowd went wild. Even when he lost the final round by a small margin, people couldn't forget him. They said, "Who is that white guy who raps like fire?" Someone from the audience picked up his demo tape, a small CD labeled Slim Shady. That tape would soon land on the desk of one of the most powerful producers in hip-hop, Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre was already a legend, the man behind stars like Snoop Dogg and Tupac. He had built empires with beats and lyrics. When he first saw Eminem's photo on the demo, he was surprised. "A white rapper?" he said, curious. But the moment he pressed play, everything changed. Eminem's voice exploded through the speakers, raw, funny, emotional, angry, alive. Dre listened once, then again, and again. He couldn't believe it. "I don't care what color he is," Dre said to his team. "I want to meet this guy today." When Eminem got the call, he thought it was a joke. Dr. Dre? The Dr. Dre? He could hardly believe it. He had spent years being ignored, and now one of the biggest producers in the world wanted to meet him. He packed his bag full of fear and hope and went to the studio. When they finally met, it felt like two different worlds colliding. The young, struggling rapper from Detroit and the successful producer from Los Angeles. Dre welcomed him with warmth and curiosity. "Let's hear what you got," he said. Eminem started rapping. His words cut through the air. Sharp, emotional, unstoppable. Dre's eyes lit up. Within minutes, he knew he had found something rare. He said, "Forget everything else. Let's record right now." They went into the studio immediately. Dre played a beat he had been saving, and Eminem started freestyling on top of it. In just a few minutes, they created their first song together, "My Name Is." It was funny, bold, and unlike anything the world had ever heard. When they played it back, both of them smiled. Dre said, "We just made a hit." That day changed everything. After years of rejection, one moment of recognition had opened the door to the world. Eminem couldn't believe it. He thought about all the nights he had gone hungry, all the people who said he'd never make it. Now, he was standing beside one of his heroes, recording a song that would soon make him famous. Dr. Dre believed in him when no one else did. He guided him, taught him about rhythm, performance, and production. Eminem listened, learned fast, and pushed himself harder than ever. Together, they became an unstoppable team. Dre's beats and Eminem's words created pure magic. When the Slim Shady LP was released in 1999, it exploded across the world. People couldn't stop talking about the new voice in hip-hop, funny yet serious, wild yet poetic. His songs told stories of struggle, anger, and survival, but also hope. His style was fearless. He rapped about things most people were afraid to say. Fans loved him. Critics couldn't ignore him. For the first time, Marshall Mathers, the boy who once slept on the floor, was standing on stage with millions cheering his name. But success is never simple. Fame brought light, but it also brought shadows. The same songs that made him famous also made him controversial. Some people didn't understand his humor. Others called his lyrics dangerous. Reporters wanted stories. Strangers judged his life. Eminem had dreamed of this moment for years, but now he realized that success came with a heavy price. Privacy disappeared. Pressure grew. Expectations became mountains. Still, he told himself, "I've come too far to stop now." He remembered the days of sleeping in cold rooms, the sound of his daughter's cry, the taste of hunger. Compared to that, fame was easy, even if it was loud and messy. He worked harder than ever, spending days and nights in the studio with Dre. They created songs like Guilty Conscience, Role Model, and Just Don't Give a... Each track told a part of his story. Not perfect, but real. Through it all, Dre remained by his side. He said, "You've got something special, man. Don't let anyone take it from you." And Eminem never forgot that. Looking back, he often said, "If Dre hadn't found me, I'd still be sleeping on that floor." But Dre always answered, "If you weren't ready, I wouldn't have found you." That's the real lesson of his story. One opportunity can change a life, but only if you are ready for it. Eminem had faced years of failure, but those years had built the strength and skill he needed for this moment. His story shows us that success is not about luck alone. It's about preparation, persistence, and believing when no one else does. Because when the right door finally opens, you must have the courage to walk through it. As the world began to call him Slim Shady, Eminem's life transformed. He went from invisible to unstoppable, from empty pockets to platinum records, from a struggling father to a global icon. But even as the lights grew brighter, the shadows also grew longer. Fame would test him in new ways, with pressure, addiction, and loss. In the next part, we will see how success, while powerful, can also be dangerous. Because sometimes, when you finally reach the top, that's when the fall becomes most possible. Chapter 6: The Rise to Fame. Welcome back to Eminem, the rap God's Journey. In this section, you will learn how a boy from Detroit became a global superstar, and how success, while bright and exciting, can also bring confusion and pain. You will hear how fame changed Eminem's life forever. When the Slim Shady LP was released, the world went wild. People who had never heard his name suddenly couldn't stop talking about him. His songs were everywhere, on the radio, on TV, in people's cars, in clubs, in schools. Everyone wanted to know who this Slim Shady was. The poor kid from Detroit was now standing on the biggest stages in the world. Cameras followed him everywhere. He gave interviews, performed live, and held trophies in his hands. When he won his first Grammy Award, he couldn't believe it. The man who had once been ignored was now called a genius. But fame is a strange thing. At first, it feels like a dream. Then it begins to feel like a storm. Everywhere he went, people stared. They wanted photos, autographs, answers. Some people loved him deeply. Others hated him loudly. His lyrics, full of anger and truth, started big debates. Parents complained. Politicians attacked him. The media called him dangerous. He didn't know how to handle it. He had always written songs to escape pain. Now those same songs made him famous and also trapped him. Fame had given him everything he wanted, but it also took something away. Peace. Eminem often said, "When I was poor, I dreamed of success. When I became successful, I dreamed of peace. That was the contrast of his life. The boy who had nothing now had everything, yet felt lost again. Still, he kept making music. His second album, the Marshall Mathers LP, broke records. It sold millions of copies in just a few days. Songs like Stan, The Real Slim Shady, and The Way I Am showed both his humor and his pain. In Stan, he told the story of a fan who loved him too much, a warning about fame and obsession. In The Way I Am, he shouted his feelings to the world. This is me. I can't be what you want. People all around the world connected to his honesty. His words were simple but powerful. He said what many people felt but could not say. For young listeners, his songs were more than rap. They were truth. Even as the applause grew louder, his private life became harder. He was a father now. He wanted to be there for his daughter, Haley, but his schedule was full. Concerts, interviews, tours. Every day was busy. Reporters followed him. Magazines wrote stories, many of them false. He began to feel trapped in the image of Slim Shady, the wild, crazy character he had created. But behind the mask was still Marshall Mathers, the quiet, tired man who just wanted to write and be free. He often asked himself, who am I now? Slim Shady, Eminem, or Marshall? The more famous he became, the harder it was to answer. Fame had also brought money, more than he ever imagined. He bought a big house, cars, and clothes, but money didn't fix everything. Old problems followed him. He argued with people. He lost friends. He missed his normal life, the one where he could walk down the street and be invisible. Some nights, after big shows, he sat alone in silence. The crowd's cheers still echoed in his mind, but when they stopped, there was emptiness. He missed the days when music was his secret escape. Now music was his job, his brand, his armor. Still, he tried to stay grounded. He looked at his daughter and said, I do this for her. That thought gave him strength. When critics attacked him, he fought back with rhymes. When life got heavy, he wrote more songs. Then came The Eminem Show, an album that showed growth and reflection. He rapped about family, fame, and fear. The world loved it even more. Now, he was not just a rapper, he was a voice for millions. He performed for crowds across continents. People from Japan to Germany sang his lyrics. A kid who once failed school now taught the world lessons about pain, survival, and truth. He became a symbol of possibility, proof that no matter where you start, you can still reach the stars. Fans wrote letters saying his songs saved their lives. Others said he gave them courage to be themselves. It was beautiful, but also heavy. He carried their hopes on his shoulders. And slowly, the weight began to grow. The travel, the pressure, the eyes watching him. It was too much. His old fears returned. His anger became stronger. The line between his art and his real life started to blur. He wanted to be the best father, the best artist, the best man, but sometimes success pulls you in too many directions. He worked nonstop. He slept little. His mind was always racing. The boy who once dreamed of freedom now felt trapped again, not by poverty this time, but by fame itself. He said in one interview, I used to be hungry for success. Now I'm just trying not to be eaten by it. Those words showed how deeply he was struggling inside. Still, he didn't stop creating. Each album became a mirror of his life, the good, the bad, the broken, the brave. His songs spoke of truth. His rhymes carried emotion. Even when he was tired, he gave his all. He knew that his voice could help others. He turned his confusion into art, his pressure into poetry. That was his gift, to make beauty out of pain. The boy who once whispered rhymes in his notebook was now one of the most famous rappers in history. Yet, deep inside, he still felt like that same boy from Detroit, just trying to be heard. The world saw the superstar, the rap god. But inside, there was still Marshall Mathers, the man learning how to live with fame. And that is the lesson here. Success is not the end. It is a new challenge. When you reach your dream, life doesn't stop. It begins again, in a different way. As Eminem stood on the world stage, shining under the bright lights, he felt both proud and afraid. He had climbed the mountain he once thought was impossible, but now he saw new mountains ahead. In the next part, we will see how those mountains became darker. Fame brought money, power, and fans, but it also brought addiction, loss, and loneliness. The next battle would not be on stage. It would be inside his own mind. Chapter 7: The Dark Side of Fame. Welcome back to Eminem, the rap god's journey. In this part, we will see the other side of the dream, how fame, success, and pressure can become a heavy weight. You will hear how the rap god, admired by millions, began to lose himself behind the lights and noise. At first, everything seemed perfect. The money, the awards, the fans. It all looked like a dream come true. But inside, Eminem was breaking. The more famous he became, the less peace he felt. He was surrounded by people, yet felt completely alone. Every day, reporters followed him. Every mistake became news. Every word he said was judged. He tried to smile for cameras, but at night, the silence was loud. He couldn't sleep. His mind wouldn't stop racing. Fame had turned from a gift into a prison. He started to feel trapped in the image he had created. Slim Shady, the wild rapper who said anything, did anything, and never showed fear. But behind that mask, Marshall Mathers was tired, scared, and empty. To escape the pain, he turned to something dangerous: pills. At first, it was just to help him sleep, to calm his nerves. Then it became a daily habit. Soon, it controlled him. The man who once used words to fight pain was now using drugs to forget it. He said later, "I didn't even realize how bad it got. I was just trying to feel normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. Fame had taken his quiet life. The stage had taken his peace. The music that once healed him now felt like pressure." As his addiction grew, his world started to fall apart. His relationships broke. He argued with friends. He pushed people away. Some left, others stayed and worried. He stopped writing for a while. The man who once poured his heart into rhymes now felt nothing inside. The media noticed. They called him angry, violent, out of control. Every headline hurt, every rumor grew. The world saw the rap god, but not the broken man behind the name. He was losing himself in his own shadow. There were nights when he sat alone, staring at the walls, wondering how everything had changed so fast. He remembered the boy who had once dreamed of being heard. And now he was heard everywhere, yet he couldn't even hear himself anymore. He said in one song, "I'm friends with the monster that's under my bed." It wasn't just lyrics. It was his truth. The monster was his own fear, his addiction, his pain. He lost friends, he lost control, he almost lost his life. One night, he took too many pills. He collapsed. When he woke up in the hospital, doctors told him he had been only minutes away from dying. That moment shook him to the core. He realized he had to change, or he wouldn't survive. Even after that, recovery wasn't easy. He went through withdrawal, pain, and confusion. He tried to quit many times, and sometimes failed. But every time he fell, he tried to get up again. He said, "I had to fight for my life. No one could do it for me." Slowly, he began to find small reasons to keep going. The biggest reason was his daughter. He looked at her and thought, she deserves a father who is alive, not lost. That love became his strength. He stopped going to parties. He stopped listening to the noise of fame. He focused on healing, quietly, one day at a time. It wasn't quick, and it wasn't easy, but for the first time in years, he chose peace over chaos. He started running in the mornings, writing again in the afternoons. At first, the words came slowly, but little by little his rhythm returned. He began to rediscover the boy who loved rhymes for their magic, not for fame, not for applause, but because they made him feel alive. He surrounded himself with a few good people, friends who cared, not for his fame, but for his heart. They encouraged him, helped him stay clean, and reminded him who he really was. Marshall, not just Slim Shady. He spent time with his daughter, watched her grow, and learned how to live again. He started making new music, this time not to shock the world, but to tell his truth. His songs became softer, wiser, more reflective. He rapped about regret, recovery, and the long road back. He said, "I almost lost everything, but I'm still here." Those words touched millions of fans who also struggled. People who once saw him as only a rebel now saw him as a survivor. They realized he wasn't just a star, he was human, like them. The contrast of his life became clear. The rap god versus the broken man. The world had seen his power, but now they saw his pain. And that made his story even more real, more powerful, more human. He began to understand that falling doesn't make you weak. Staying down does. Real strength is standing up again, even when you're shaking. And that was the lesson he wanted to share. Even strong people fall. But the real power is to stand again. As he healed, his music healed too. Songs like Beautiful and Not Afraid became messages of hope, not just for him, but for everyone who ever felt lost. He turned his darkness into light, his mistakes into lessons, his silence into songs that gave others courage. He no longer cared about being the loudest or the richest. He cared about being real. He wanted to prove that recovery is possible, that broken hearts can beat again. He once said, "I don't just rap to be heard. I rap to stay alive." And that was true. Every word became medicine. Every song became a step toward peace. The world saw a new Eminem, older, calmer, wiser, but still full of fire. The man who once fought the world was now fighting for himself. And little by little, he began to win that battle. But his story wasn't over yet. The next chapter would show how he used his pain to help others, how he turned his fall into a message of hope, healing, and strength. Because sometimes the greatest victory doesn't come from standing on a stage. It comes from standing up after you've fallen. Chapter 8: Recovery and Redemption. Welcome back to Eminem, the rap god's journey. In this section, you will hear how Eminem rebuilt his life after hitting rock bottom. You will see how the man who once lost everything began again, stronger, wiser, and ready to turn pain into purpose. This story will help you learn simple English while understanding the power of recovery. After years of addiction and struggle, Eminem knew he needed help. He realized that talent alone could not save him. Money and fame were useless if he lost his life and his family. He made a decision that many people never can. He chose to go to rehab. Rehab was not easy. Every day he faced his fears, his mistakes, and his regrets. The process was painful. Withdrawal was hard, emotions were heavy, and memories were sharp. But he kept going. He knew that to survive, he had to face himself completely. During this time, he reconnected with his family. He spent more time with his daughter, Haley, and tried to rebuild his relationship with his mother, even though their past had been difficult. He also repaired friendships that had broken under the weight of fame and addiction. Slowly, he learned trust again. Music became his therapy. Every day he wrote lyrics about his struggle, his mistakes, and his hopes. The words poured out of him like water, cleansing him. He no longer wrote to shock people or to gain fame. He wrote to heal, to explain, and to inspire. In 2009, after years of hard work and reflection, he released his comeback album, Recovery. This album was different from anything he had done before. It was honest, raw, and full of emotion. He rapped about his addiction, his failures, and his path to redemption. Songs like Not Afraid and Beautiful showed that he had learned from his mistakes. Fans responded immediately. They saw the man behind the fame and the persona of Slim Shady. They understood his pain and his triumph. Millions of people felt inspired by his story because it showed that even when life seems impossible, a new beginning is always possible. The contrast in his life was clear. The man who had lost everything, his health, his peace, his relationships, had started again, stronger and wiser. He had learned humility, patience, and the power of honesty. He knew now that success was not only about fame or money, but about living truthfully and helping others. Eminem also returned to the stage and studio with a new perspective. He no longer chased records just for popularity. He focused on making music that mattered. He shared his experiences openly, connecting deeply with fans who had also faced struggles. Every performance, every lyric carried authenticity and hope. He spoke about his fear of relapse, the battles inside his mind, and the lessons he had learned. In interviews, he encouraged others to seek help when needed, to confront their weaknesses, and to never give up. His words were simple but powerful. Failure is not the end. It's a new beginning. Even in moments of fame, he stayed grounded. He remembered the nights on the floor, the hunger, the loneliness, and the fear. Those memories kept him humble and determined. They reminded him that every day is a gift, and every choice matters. He also focused on being a better father. Haley became his center. his reason for staying strong. He wanted her to see a father who faced life bravely, who admitted mistakes, and who rebuilt his life with courage. That commitment gave him motivation beyond music or money. It gave him purpose. Through Recovery, Eminem taught an important lesson. Falling does not mean you are finished. Life can break you, fame can confuse you, and mistakes can hurt you deeply, but you always have the power to start again. The process may be long and painful, but each step forward builds strength. He continued to write, perform, and share his story, using his music as a bridge between his pain and his fans' lives. He became an example of resilience, showing that even the strongest people can struggle, and that the real victory comes from standing up after the fall. Recovery was not only about addiction, it was about finding himself, reclaiming his voice, and choosing life over despair. Every song, every lyric, every performance became a testimony of hope and redemption. Eminem's journey showed that even when everything seems lost, a new path can appear. A path that leads not just to fame, but to peace, purpose, and mastery of self. As he embraced his new life, he began to transform pain into wisdom. In the next section, we will explore how Eminem took the lessons from his struggles and turned them into creative mastery, using his experiences to inspire millions around the world. Chapter 9: The Rap God Era. Welcome back to Eminem, the Rap God's Journey. In this section, you will see how Eminem reclaimed his place in the music world. You will learn how a man who once struggled with addiction and failure became a master of words, rhythm, and storytelling. This part will help you practice simple English while feeling the power of dedication and skill. After his comeback with Recovery, Eminem knew he wanted more than just survival. He wanted mastery. He wanted to show the world that he could not only rap, but also innovate. Fame and Recovery had given him experience, but now it was time to prove his skill. He became a student of rap all over again. Every day he practiced his flow, his rhythm, and his timing. He studied old records, listened to great rappers, and challenged himself to be better than before. The world was watching. Fans waited for new music. Critics expected more. But Eminem did not rush. He spent months, sometimes years, perfecting every verse, every rhyme. He believed that greatness comes from practice, not luck. In 2013, he released the Marshall Mathers LP 2, an album that reminded everyone why he was a legend. But it was his 2013 song, Rap God, that truly changed the game. In this song, he pushed language to the limit. His speed, clarity, and creativity amazed listeners. Every word was carefully chosen. Every rhyme told a story. The song was a test of skill, endurance, and imagination. Fans watched in awe as he rapped faster than almost anyone before, yet still made each line meaningful. It was not only about speed, it was about intelligence, storytelling, and emotion. In one verse, he described his journey, his struggles, and his triumphs. Listeners could feel the years of pain, practice, and persistence in every syllable. The contrast was clear. Once a young boy from Detroit, struggling to be heard, now a rap god, commanding language like a master painter controls color. He had turned mistakes into lessons, pain into creativity, and hours of practice into art. Eminem did not take his success for granted. He remembered the nights on the floor, the hunger, and the fear. Those memories kept him humble and motivated. He knew that talent alone was not enough. Discipline, study, and focus made him a master. Every lyric in Rap God was a result of years of work, not luck. He also mentored younger rappers, showing them that skill comes from dedication. He emphasized writing every day, learning music history, and practicing constantly. He said, "You don't become a rap god overnight. You grind, you learn, and you never stop." The world noticed. Critics called him a genius, a wordsmith, and one of the greatest rappers of all time. Fans cheered his performances, studied his lyrics, and tried to keep up with his speed. But beyond the speed and skill, people felt something more: truth. Every rhyme came from experience, struggle, and wisdom. Even on stage, Eminem showed mastery. He performed with precision, energy, and emotion. Songs that once felt personal to him became shared experiences for millions of fans. He proved that great art is not only about talent, it is about practice, persistence, and heart. Yet, behind the glory, he remained grounded. He remembered being the boy who was bullied, ignored, and poor. That memory kept him connected to fans who felt small, weak, or unheard. He wanted them to know that greatness is possible, no matter where you start. Through Rap God, he inspired people not only to enjoy music, but also to believe in effort and patience. He showed that mastery is built through daily practice, facing challenges, and refusing to give up, even when the world doubts you. He also pushed boundaries of language and expression. He experimented with rhyme patterns, syllable counts, and storytelling. He turned rap into a tool of education, emotion, and empowerment. Listeners could feel his intellect and his humanity at the same time. The contrast of his life became even more powerful. The student of Detroit streets, who once could not pay rent or feed his daughter, now a master of language and rhythm, standing on world stages, teaching lessons through music. The journey was not just fame. It was growth, discipline, and transformation. He proved that even small, weak, or lonely people could become giants if they worked hard and stayed true to themselves. His story encouraged millions to practice, learn, and believe in their potential. As the Rap God era continued, Eminem created more albums, songs, and performances that combined speed, emotion, and truth. His life became a message. Struggle is not shameful, pain is not wasted, and mastery comes from dedication. And now, as we move to the next section, we will see how Eminem's story builds a legacy, how the boy from Detroit, who once felt invisible, became a symbol of hope, courage, and power for anyone who feels small in the world. Chapter 10: The Legacy. Welcome back to Eminem. The Rap God's Journey. In this section, you will see how Eminem became more than just a rapper. You will learn how the boy from Detroit, who once had no voice, grew into a man who spoke for millions. His story is not just about music. It is about courage, hope, and using pain to inspire others. Eminem's journey had always been personal. He rapped about his struggles, his mistakes, and his fears. At first, it was therapy, a way to survive the chaos of his life. But soon, people realized that his words were universal. Teenagers facing bullying, Adults dealing with failure and people who felt alone heard themselves in his songs. They felt understood. They felt seen. The contrast of his life became clear. Once, he was a small boy in a poor Detroit neighborhood, ignored and bullied. Now, he was a man whose words could move millions, a voice for those who felt unheard. His pain became power, his struggle became strength, and his life became inspiration. He influenced culture, music, and even language. Phrases from his songs entered everyday speech. Fans learned rhymes, rhythms, and wordplay, trying to match his skill. But it was more than fun. It was a lesson in courage. He showed that even people from difficult backgrounds could create something meaningful and lasting. Eminem's impact went beyond music. He broke barriers in hip-hop, proving that talent and honesty mattered more than race or background. He challenged stereotypes and inspired new generations to express themselves freely. People saw that it was possible to rise, no matter where you start. Many outsiders felt connected to him. Fans wrote letters saying his songs helped them survive bullying, depression, and family struggles. They said he gave them courage to speak their own truth. Eminem became a symbol of resilience. He reminded people that pain can become a tool to inspire others. Even in interviews and speeches, he encouraged honesty, hard work, and persistence. He said, "You have to use your voice. If you don't, no one else will." He taught that everyone has a story, and telling it can change lives, including your own. He also influenced younger artists, showing them that mastery requires practice, dedication, and sincerity. He mentored some, inspired many, and created a new standard in rap. His influence touched millions of lives, not just through music, but through the message of perseverance and courage. Eminem's story also shows the power of transformation. From a boy with nothing but words, he became a man whose words shaped culture. From a young man rejected by the world, he became a hero for those fighting to be heard. His journey proves that when you use your pain to help others, you become truly great. He did not forget his roots. He often returned to Detroit, visiting schools and neighborhoods, speaking to kids about music, education, and believing in themselves. He wanted them to see that the streets where he struggled could also be a place where dreams start. Through albums, live performances, and personal stories, Eminem created a legacy that goes beyond fame. His legacy is about honesty, courage, and resilience. He shows that no matter your past, your struggles can shape your future. Pain can be a teacher, failure can be a guide, and hard work can create miracles. His life also reminds us that greatness is not only measured by awards, money, or fans. True greatness is measured by how many lives you touch, how many people feel stronger because of you, and how your story inspires hope. Eminem became a rap god not only through skill, but through impact. The boy who once felt invisible learned to speak, and in doing so, he gave a voice to millions who also felt unheard. He taught that mistakes are lessons, failures are steps, and struggle is fuel for growth. Every song, every rhyme, every verse carries a message. You can rise, you can survive, and you can inspire. Fans across the world continue to celebrate him. His music is studied in schools, discussed in communities, and shared among friends. His influence is both cultural and personal. People see a reflection of their own struggles in his story, and that connection creates hope. Eminem's legacy also includes honesty about his imperfections. He never pretended to be perfect. He shared his darkest moments, showing that falling is human. But standing up again, working hard, and helping others is what makes someone legendary. As we look at his journey, it becomes clear that legacy is not about being remembered for wealth or fame. It is about being remembered for how you change the lives of others. Eminem's voice, born from struggle, became a guide, a teacher, and a friend to millions. The rap god era was not just about speed, rhymes, or awards. It was about using talent to create hope. It was about turning pain into art, fear into courage, and struggle into a story that could inspire the world. In the next and final section, we will bring together all the lessons from Eminem's life, hope, perseverance, and courage, and show how his journey teaches us that no matter where you start, you can rise, speak, and inspire. Chapter 11. From Pain to Power. Welcome back to the final part of Eminem, the rap god's journey. Here, we will see the full story, from a lonely, poor boy in Detroit to a global icon whose words changed millions of lives. You will hear simple English while feeling the power of courage, perseverance, and hope. Eminem's life was never easy. He faced poverty, bullying, and loneliness as a child. He struggled to be heard. The world often ignored him, laughed at him, and doubted him. Yet, he never gave up. He took his pain and turned it into words. Those words became his weapon, his shield, and his power. As a teenager, he practiced every day, rapping battles in Detroit, even when others mocked him. Every rejection, every failure, every dark night made him stronger. When he almost lost everything to addiction, he found the courage to stand again. He rebuilt his life, returned to music, and shared his truth with the world. Eminem became the rap god not by luck, but by hard work, discipline, and honesty. He turned struggles into songs, fears into rhymes, and mistakes into lessons. His journey shows that you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have it all. You just need to start, keep moving, and believe in yourself. The boy who once had no voice became a man who gave voice to millions. The outsider became a symbol of hope. The lost man became a legend. His story teaches us that every person has a voice, and every story can rise. Pain can be transformed into power. Fear can become fuel. Struggle can lead to strength. Eminem's legacy goes beyond music. It is about courage, resilience, and authenticity. It reminds us that life will test us, but those tests can make us greater. We all face hardships, doubts, and moments of fear. But if we take one step forward, speak one truth, or try one time more, we are already winning. So, remember his journey, the poor boy in Detroit, the man who fell, the rap god, and the living legend. His life shows that no matter how small or weak you feel, your voice matters. Your story matters. You can rise, inspire, and make a difference. Take that first step today. Speak your truth. Create your art. Face your fear. Like Eminem, you can turn your pain into power, your struggle into strength, and your life into a story that inspires others. Believe in yourself. Keep moving forward, and let your words and actions shine. The world is listening, and your story can rise, just like Eminem's.